New year, new me, huh? That's what we all say every year, but we never do anything about it. I ate so badly last year, it'd probably been better for me if I'd got hit by a bus on January 1st. But luckily this year, I've got HelloFresh. And the great thing about HelloFresh is you don't have to go outside, shopping, mixing with people. I can't stand people. I want it all delivered to my door so I can avoid them. And that's exactly what I get from HelloFresh. There's usually only about 6 to 8 steps, and that means I can get dinner on the table quickly. There's even one meal called the Super Quick, which gets you a healthy meal on the table within 15 minutes. And there's more than 44 recipes on the site, so you can't get bored of the options. And the best thing about it is it's really cheap. £3.15 per portion of each meal, and that's before me discount. And when you order, you can get a big discount from me, 60% off your first box and 20% off the next 2 months. And all you have to do to get that is use the QR code on the screen now, or click the link in the description below and use the code THEKICKOFF24. That's THEKICKOFF, no spaces, 24. So make sure you use HelloFresh when you're feeding yourself, because it helps feed us and keep us making your videos. So what's the hold up, really? Just get onto it. Need to pay the bills. But genuinely, the food is really good. And enjoy the video. Thanks. Appreciate it. See ya. Now, Arsenal, you lot were my favourites about 2 weeks ago, and I think Arsenal fans, they were getting carried away, and rightly fucking so, right? But what the hell's gone on, mate?
Well, we lost 2 games on the bounce, and in a time like this in the season when fixtures are so congested, you fall away that quickly.
You were talking earlier this season, though, about you're not quite playing the same flair that you had last season, and now we're seeing it more and more, because looking at the form guide's terrible, but if you're looking at the fact that Jared Bowen has more goals on his own than Saka, Martinelli and Jesus combined.
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing.
It's poor, man. And I think that is the area where people are really focusing. They're looking at our attacking players, you know, those 3 who were incredible last season. This time last season, when we were in for the World Cup break, I think we'd drawn 1 game, lost 1 game. That was it. We'd won every other game, and we were on fire. We were on a 100-point pace. I think we scored a record number of goals for the football club last season, and that attack was it. It was Jesus playing as a pivot, playing sort of Firmino role, similar to Liverpool, and those 2 wingers going with him. For me, there's 2 problems. First of all, you can't try and win a title pinning all your goal-scoring hopes on 2 players who were 21 at the start of this season. You just can't. I still believe in both of those players, Saka and Martinelli. I think Saka's a world-class player. I think Martinelli has the potential to be as well. You can't hope that they're going to do a whole season on their own with a player like Gabby Jesus, who comes out and does interviews saying that he's not a goal scorer. The other issue you've got, mate, it's interesting watching Liverpool today, because we all know that Liverpool have done a bit of a midfield rebuild this season, right? And I think you can question how well that's gone. Szoboszlai, 1 goal. He's had a lot of Liverpool fans on his back over the last couple of weeks. Endo, I'm not so sure. Arsenal have done the same thing, and I spoke about this after the Chelsea game. We've taken Xhaka and Partey out of the team, replaced them with Havertz and Rice. Now, for me, Havertz, not quite on fraud watch. He's kind of on probation. The tag's on his ankle a little bit. Rice, everyone's been talking about how he's been the signing of the summer. I'm going to say it now. The last couple of games, Rice has been pony. Last couple of games, we've seen the flaws of Declan Rice, which is when you've got a team who don't want to come at you at all, who just want to sit back. Rice takes too many touches. He doesn't pierce through lines. He can't drop a shoulder and go around someone in the way that Thomas Partey does. You go back and watch clips from last season of when we were really, really good. Thomas Partey, base for midfield, getting pressed, 1 touch, balls out of his feet into Saka. So when you're judging these attacking players, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, their goal numbers are absolutely dreadful. And if they carry on at this pace, they're going to finish the season with 4 goals, 5 goals, 7 goals, and it's going to be a disgrace. I don't want to let them off.
You're missing another player here as well. Odegaard's been well off it in comparison to the season before. Maybe he set the benchmark so high because he was so good the season before, but Odegaard quite a few times this season, I've been thinking he'll have a good moment, and I'm thinking, right, here's where you really kick on again. He's
been the best of the bad bunch. If I'm really, and I've got to be honest with you, after watching the West Ham game in particular, if I was him, I'd have gone into that changing room throwing punches at full time. I'd have been so pissed off with those forwards, because the chances he laid on a plate for them, he's been unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, part of the one thing we haven't spoken about, we've started Eddie Nketiah in, I think, 13 Premier League games. You can't do that if you're trying to win a Premier League title. I'm not trying to let any of these players off the hook. What we've done in our midfield, love Declan Rice. He's a fantastic player. For me, in terms of defensive actions, the best midfielder in Europe. at defensive actions. He can't pierce lines in the way that Thomas Partey does. Kai Havertz, I've got to be honest, the defensive stuff's the most impressive thing about him. Counter-pressing, winning second. It really is, mate.
That's not what we were expecting.
It's not what anyone was expecting. It's not what we wanted, I'll be honest with you, mate. And he started scoring a few more goals recently. He can't pass the ball like Granit Xhaka. You can't take all of your ball players, all of your ball progressors out of a team and expect your attackers to receive the ball in the same areas and score the same goals. All Arsenal fans have been on the back of Zinchenko the last few weeks. I mean, he loses headers. Oh, the best right winger in the world beat him with a step and scored a goal that no one else scores. Yeah, great. Take him out of the team. Who else fucking passes the ball? No one. Because you've taken Partey and Xhaka out already. He's the only one that can pass the ball from deep. So I'm not defending these Arsenal forwards. They've been a real letdown. I look at Son at Spurs. I look at some of the Chelsea forwards. I think Mudryk was on the same amount of Premier League goals as Saka before he scored yesterday. They don't look good enough. I will defend them and say that.
Who you're competing with is Haaland on 14 goals, Salah on 12.
Well, yeah, mate.
There's no one to compete with. And if you are competing with them for a title.
Arsenal fans are going to look at this January window and go, we need reinforcements. And there have been names that have been mentioned. There's been Ivan Toney who's mentioned. There have been Pedro Neto who's been mentioned. Players like that. I've got to be honest with you, mate. Would City buy those players? Would Liverpool buy those players? No. If you really want to compete with City, like, you're going to laugh at me. There's a name I'm going to say. You can't get him in January. He's available in the summer. You have to go for Mbappe.
Wow.
That's what you have to go for. Wow. I'm not saying we can get him. I'll be really honest with you. If Real Madrid aren't going to get him, I'd say we've got as good a shout as most teams in Europe. But that is the level you have to shop at. You have to shop at Osimhen level. Mm-hmm. You can't, like, Ivan Toney. I'd love Ivan Toney in January.
Does Arteta want that, like, traditional number 9, the sort of player that holds up the ball and scores those type of goals? Or does he want a player that rotates, that is like that Gabriel Jesus Mark II, but can actually put it in the back of the net? Because for me, I think if you put a number 9 with Arteta in his system, I don't know if he gets the best out of it.
Me and my friends were having this debate the other day, me and my Arsenal friends. So what we did was, and I know their highlights, but just to refresh our memory, we went and started watching Ivan Toney's highlights. Ivan Toney can do that side of the game. I don't think he gets enough props.
He can do everything in my opinion.
He can hold the ball, he can link, he can play it off. He scores all kinds of goals. When I was watching his highlights, he scored at Anfield, he scored at the Etihad, headers, tap-ins, chips, volley. He scores all kinds of goals.
Technically, he's clean.
He's clean. I don't think he could.
But we're talking about a team that wants to win the title and win the Champions League one day.
You know, when we look back and we think when Man United signed Van Persie and we knew exactly what it had done. We knew that them signing Van Persie had won them the league before he had even rocked up there and started scoring goals. I don't think that this is a like-for-like situation where you go, well, if Arsenal sign Ivan Toney, they win the league. I've heard people online saying it, but I don't look at it and think, yeah, that's it.
You're getting a player who walks into the Liverpool team.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
So looking at this Liverpool front three today.
Nunes, he's absolutely walking in ahead of Nunes.
And even Jota up top.
Yeah,
like, who they paying for the middle?
I'd rather have him than Nunes. I'll tell you what, Liverpool fans, they fucking love Nunes. Like they
because they ain't got the option of an Ivan Toney yet. I bet you they'd love Ivan Toney if they had the option.
Ivan Toney will get you double figures. I think he could get you double figures between now and the end of the
season.
Scores
a lot of his goals are penalties. A lot of his goals are penalties. It's another fear I've got with him. A lot of his total comes from penalties.
Do you feel like Arsenal are bottling the title right now?
I don't think we ever had a title to bottle this season, to be perfectly honest with you, mate. I think this season's been a bit of a false equivalence in the sense that City haven't had De Bruyne. He's back for the FA Cup title.
Are you worried about the trend that's emerging over the last couple of seasons? Like when Arsenal looked sort of nailed on to get top 4, they bottled it a little bit. When they were favourites to get the title at that point, they bottled it a little bit. And I'm not saying they had the title in their grasp after the 18 games or something like that. But there was a point 4 or 5 games ago when you were looking at Arsenal and you were looking at Liverpool. Some people maybe Villa, but you were definitely looking at them two and going, balls in your court.
It's there for you.
Balls in your court. And then now there's been the capitulation. It started to fall apart and you're sort of looking at it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't watch things closely enough to know this. But as someone without a horse in the race and, by all means without a horse anywhere near the race, I look at that and go, yeah, you have got form for bottling it a little bit when you start to become a favourite.
I'm not sure we were ever favourites last season to win that title. Even when we were far ahead, I think all of you lot around this table, if I'd have given you 50 quid and gone, do you want to put it on City or Arsenal? I think you'd have all stuck it on City.
No, I thought we were winning it though.
I'd have just pocketed.
Personally, I did.
It's debatable.
The thing with both of those situations, we're talking about that top 4 thing and the title, we shouldn't have been top 4 that season. We were fighting to get back in the Europa League, not top 4. So we overachieved in the first place to then bottle it. Last season, no one was talking about us going on a title race last season. It was about, could we get top 4 after we just bottled it? We then led the Premier League. So if what we're going to do is kind of shoot for the moon and land on the stars a little bit, I don't mind that so much. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we are still overachieving.
But Leicester overachieved, but then they still got the job done. Newcastle last season overachieved, but then they still got the job done to be finishing in those top
And not only
spots.
did they do that, but then Arsenal in this summer have gone out and invested, 200 plus million pounds on players. So you've gone, you've had that season last year where you've gone so close, nearly done it. And then you've invested again and you still were sort of faltering here. You should be right up there. You've got the wage bill now and you've spent the amount of money to be right up there at the very, very top. And you should be claiming yourselves. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans would disagree with you and say we were absolutely going for the title.
I think when you get Rice, you then go, right, okay, we finished second last season. It was sort of in our hands.
It was only 5
point.
points.
We've gone and got Declan Rice. Now,
I'm not saying we weren't going for the title this season. I do think we were competing for the title this season. I think we bought players to compete for titles. I said this on this show, that when you look at the players that we bought over the summer, they all walked into our dressing room with medals around their necks. Kai Havertz got a Champions League medal. Timber won everything at Ajax. Declan Rice has won, kind of a medal. West Ham.
European trophy, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah.
When was the last time you won one?
I'm not saying it's fucking spicy today, isn't it? You boys know I'm over. You're coming up. No, mate. We are in title race. We bought players to go into title race, and guess what? We're still in it.
Yeah, you are.
Guess what?
Yeah,
we haven't bottled nothing yet. We haven't bottled nothing yet. And I'll tell you what, mate.
Yeah.
I would love it if we beat them. I can feel it.
No, do you know what I'll say right now? I think you have to look at leagues and cup competitions differently, right? And I'll finish by saying this. The league, I don't think we've got the attacking players to do it. I think attacking players win you leagues because they get you goals when you need them. I think defences win you cups. If I look at the Arsenal team right now, we have got, in my opinion, one of the best defences in Europe.
You buy Ivan Toney. Does that take you to the league title, or do you still think you're too short?
It gets us a lot closer. I'm not ready to say it takes us because I look at Manchester City with De Bruyne coming back. We should all be looking at them and going, they're still the favourites. Ivan Toney, no. If you're going to put me on the spot, Brian, if you're going to put me on the spot, if it's Kylian Mbappe walking through the door in January, yeah, it ain't happening. If Ivan Toney, I can't say. I like him, but I can't commit.
The Man City thing, we've been talking around the table a little bit about, they're missing some key players. And when is Phil Foden going to step up and be the man? Well, against Everton, I've got to give the lad credit. I've been asking for it. He rattled it in the bottom corner and really got them back in the game and took over the game. So, credit to him. And City have really showed a bit of consistency, bit of mental strength. De Bruyne coming back, it does feel like, this is it. This is what they're going to start.
Rodri being back, that's a real big win for them. Like, I know the other players are the ones that will pop up to win games. Ironically, Rodri actually scored the other night, but him being back is huge for them.
They've missed Haaland for the last 4 games as well. No one's really talking about that.
Alvarez is good, man. Alvarez is good.
Yeah, but Haaland, still top scorer. He hasn't even played for ages.
That's the difference when you look at City and Arsenal, City can lose Haaland and they still got Alvarez that's going to score goals. Whereas Arsenal are looking and they're thinking, well, who have we actually got that are going to score our goals? So,
but who's got that depth? Who in world football? Like, bear in mind, Alvarez won the World Cup last year. Like, Alvarez, mate, any other team, Alvarez would be pushing to start, if not starting, for any other team in the world.
Yeah.
Like, that is ridiculous. Like, I'm looking at Arsenal. We're bringing on Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah. I'm not even sure if these guys are Premier League footballers, let alone World Cup winners. Like, who can compete with it? This is what I'm saying, though. Who can compete with it?
Well, looking at the 2023 overall league table, Manchester City are on 93 points for the year. The next team is Aston Villa on 85. Currently, Liverpool and Arsenal are joint on 81. That is staggering.
So Emery's better than Arteta?
Well,
after our last...
you could argue, pound for pound, and I know Pep won the Champions League and the treble and all that Emery is the manager of the year for 2023. In terms of, you could argue for what he's done in taking so many points with a team that were battling relegation when he took them over. I've given Eddie Howe a lot of credit for doing that. He's gone above Eddie Howe in terms of where he stands in the league this season. It's unbelievable.
Mate, if he was 4th in that table that you just read out, I think you can still make a case for him being the best one because of the fact he's come in.
But is he the best?
No. Pep you'd say is the best, but I'd say Emery's...
In terms of job done, pound for pound, meaning with the players he has, the amount of money spent on those players, the level of quality, and where you put those players in the league table, in terms of overachieving, I think that what he's done is more impressive to me because I expect Pep to win the league every season. He's got all the best players and he's the most accomplished manager. For me, Emery's job is unbelievable.
Does it say the wins? Because I'm pretty sure I read that Villa have the most wins, didn't they?
They don't. They've got the second most wins,
right?
But it's 26 wins they've got, and Liverpool 23, Arsenal 24. So yeah,
how many has City got?
City have got 29.
I take your point about pound for pound, like 100%. A man's only as good as his tools, really, and Emery's tools are nowhere near Pep's tools. But he won 4 trophies in 2023, including the Club World Cup. What's it called? The Club World?
Yeah, the Club World Cup.
Whatever it is. He won 4 trophies last year. Emery won 0.
I agree. I'm just saying, to be only 8 points behind Pep Guardiola.
It's impressive.
In 42 games played is unbelievable.
Can I just say one thing? Spent very wisely. Yeah. They have spent a bit of money.
Well, spent a lot of money.
Villa have spent a very
They spent a lot of money under Steven Gerrard. He's inherited some players that were underperforming under Gerrard as well.
Well, I think with that, you have to look at the fact he's got a seriously good sporting director in Monchi. Like, they work together at Sevilla. Like, and when you look around the Premier League, they are the clubs that do the best. The ones who've got a really good sporting director. I think Edu Gaspar at Arsenal actually won an award for best sporting director in Europe a few weeks ago. I mean, I don't want to get into him. You know, I'm sure we will get into him at some point. Manchester United, mate. How much could they do with a sporting director? Mate, I don't want to.
I don't think they need one.
No, give Ten Hag another contract.
Give Ten Hag the 400 million again. It'll be
I would agree with you about what Emery's done. I've got to be honest with you, as someone who's got PTSD of watching an Emery team, I've got to see him finish a season before I give him his flowers. I look at that Aston Villa team, and I'd ask all of us around this table, we'd all look at that team and say, I'd have a few of them players.
I'd have more than a few. I could probably name about 2 players that play for Chelsea that get into that Aston Villa team. And their depth. You look at their bench sometimes, their depth is ridiculous. Diaby, when he came in, I was thinking he's going to be the signing of the season. And even when they got beat 5-1 or whatever it was against Newcastle, I was still thinking, I'll tell you what, he's going to be a good player from. He was just on the bench the other day. Like, some of the names they have on their bench, Villa have got depth. Like, when people are saying now, like, you know, you can't rule Villa out because of what happened with Leicester, I get it. And we may never see a Leicester thing like that again. What I would say is Villa have better depth.
They do.
They have better depth than Leicester. They have a more proven manager at winning things. And when you look at Villa even recently, okay, they've dropped a few points here and there, but some of the wins they've been getting, little bit reminiscent of Arsenal last season, they've been getting them 93rd, 97th minute winners. Even the game against Sheffield United, they drawed, that was in the 97th minute or something like that. So they're a team that are just so hard to beat as well.
There's other factors we need to take into account. Like, also, when you're the manager of Villa, there's no pressure. Yeah. There's no pressure. Pressure's a big thing. We're talking about that with Arsenal. When you manage at City or top clubs, that comes with immense pressure. Now, what Emery's doing now is, because he's taking them up there creates an expectation now. And then we're going to see going forward, if they do finish within the top 4, which it looks like, because they're in a title race right now as it stands. Next season, then we're going to be talking about them differently. We're going to start talking about them how we speak about Arteta and Arsenal. But as right now, when there's no pressure, of course you can go out, play your football, get your ideas across. I'm not trying to downplay what Emery's done, by the way.
They're playing Thursday night football.
There are clubs that are
right up there.
Conference League.
It is,
over there,
Europe. Like, we're complaining
There's
about all these
pressure, though.
There's no pressure.
As a manager, when you walk into Aston Villa, what the pressure is. When he walked in, the pressure is don't get relegated. And then once you do that with the players he's got, which they shouldn't be relegated with the players they have, because they were worse teams than them, now it's like, all right, cool. Anyway, if you float between 9th and 6th, that's a really good season. He's done his thing. Like, I'm not taking away from Emery, but I'm bringing up extra little factors we need to consider.
And there should be.
There has to be a reason he hasn't been at a top club barring PSG yet. I want to see Emery after Villa. Where does he go? Would Man City hire him? Because we talk about Pep, you know, him being next to Pep here, but would he ever be good enough to manage a team like Man City? Would a team like Man City or Real Madrid consider him?
Good CV, hasn't he? But got one of the best CVs on the market.
If you look at who managed Man City before Pep, though, he's easily as good as a lot of those. Yeah. It's like Pep's a 1 in a million, as you have said a lot.
He's as good as guys that have won the league. Man City. Pellegrini, when is he going to
step up? When is he going to step up? So maybe Man United might be a thing. When is he going to step up and take something with a lot of pressure?
All right, ultimate test. Chelsea boys, would you have Emery?
No, I'm Pochettino.
There you go.
No. Listen, if Poch did get fired, then yeah, I'd have Emery.
Eddie Howe leaves tomorrow, would you take Emery?
Absolutely.
Oh,
really?
If Poch leaves tomorrow, of course I'd take Emery.
The man's got 85 points in a year with Aston Villa, and only Pep has more. He is showing right now just how good he is. And like, even in the form table, we're talking about pressure right now. We're getting to a bit more of a pressure part of the season. This is where Arsenal have dropped a few points. Like, clearly the pressure is getting to Arsenal. We're talking about pressure. Aston Villa are second in the form table. Do you want to know where the other competitors are? Liverpool are 6th, City are 7th, Chelsea are 10th, Arsenal are 12th, Man United are 13th. Like, Villa aren't showing signs of...
No.
And they
2-0 up at Old Trafford, and they bottled it. They shit the bed.
Do you know what it is?
Against Man United.
This is coming from me.
Yeah, but
Nobody likes
that
to hate on Man United more than me. Man United played fucking good in that game, actually. I've got to say. It was one of 2 games all season where Man United actually played well.
Yeah, but if Villa play at their level and Man United play at their level this season, Villa beat them.
No, but you're saying that because of what we've seen. But actually, if we're talking about match winners and a lot of the money you spent in Man United, if Man United had a decent manager, we'd see a lot more of that, in my opinion. But that's a whole...
So we're not going to call that a wobble then? Well, yeah, it's 2-0 up and losing 3-2.
It's impressive to then go and win the next game.
But Pep Guardiola dropped points against Crystal Palace, man. Like, that sometimes just happens. Right?
And when Spurs finally come to the end of that winning streak sort of thing, it was like 4 losses out of 4 or something like that. So listen, Villa have to go and win more matches, but for Villa to then lose that match and then come back and win, I think it's quite...
You're bringing me on to my next point.
Speaking of Spurs, though, they're 4th in the form table, and they're having a resurgence.
Yeah.
Are you a believer again? Do you feel like it's turning back after that wobble?
So I thought about this on the way here. I felt like this might come up. I haven't been convinced with our performances, though. I'll be real. The points, I'll take them all day, every day of the week.
Bournemouth's a good win.
Yeah, and Everton, Everton.
They were top of that form table, weren't they?
No, even when we played Everton, they were on form. Like we've taken points off some good teams that are in a good vein of form, but the performances for me, and to be honest, I'm expecting it. We got loads of injuries.
Everyone in the title race is saying the same thing right now. Like Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans, I'm hearing the same thing from City fans. Performances, and we said this at the start, no one's staking that claim yet.
But you know what the difference is, though? And this is where I could just, flex a little bit. Villa, and this is what I was going to say, and Arsenal haven't had that many injuries. They've actually had a lot of rubber. You're going to say Timber and Partey. Cool. In your starting 11, you haven't had key injuries to your spine. Rice has been there. Odegaard's been there. Saliba's been there. Gabriel's been there.
Odegaard's not been there. Odegaard got injured.
Like what, 3 weeks max?
He missed 4 games.
Odegaard's played 17 in the Prem.
But you've only played 20 games because that's not an injury. It's an injury, but you know what I'm saying. We've lost Van der Ven, Romero, Maddison. Basuma's been suspended twice. Like, we've lost all kinds of players all over the pitch. Have Villa even had any considerable injuries?
Ollie Watkins plays every minute of every game for Villa. Like,
have they had considerable injuries?
Yeah, but they got Pau Torres. We've
got 10 first player injuries right now. Newcastle have had, like you said, been decimated.
Mate, they're playing in Europe on Thursday nights. You're sat at home with your feet up.
But all I'm saying is we've had our injuries. And so this leads back to my point, right? We haven't been playing that well, but I empathise and I understand it. And I have to move with a bit of logic because we've got so many key players missing. But it just leads me to believe if we're 3 points off the top with all these injuries, and before we had them, we were top of the league. Where would we be if we had Van der Ven, Manderson, all of these players? So you're saying, like Villa have had.
What you're saying, mate, is that Spurs are title challengers.
Right now, we're in a title race. Right now,
I've waited 20 games for this.
I don't know, but I don't think we're going to win
for it.
But I don't think
got him.
Yeah, but you asked me. He asked me when it was 10 games. It's now January.
We've been asking you for about 5 games.
What did I say?
You actually said after Christmas, if you're still up there, then you're in the title race. And now you finally admitted it. I love it.
Yeah, but if Arsenal are 1 point above us and they're in the title race, how are we not in the title race?
But you're in the title race 10 games ago.
But we're not going to win the title.
I worry for Spurs and Liverpool because of that Asian Cup, African Cup of Nations. I can't think, but I feel like Arsenal and Man City aren't going to be as affected as badly.
No. We've lost our 2 midfielders, Basuma and Sarr to that. Son's going, and who's our top scorer. We've got injuries, in Maddison and Van der Ven. Like, we're juggling right now, but we're still there somehow. So, do you know what, Brian? I'm happy. I can't complain. Like, I think, do you know what this shows to me? That Ange is a fantastic manager. Yeah. That's what it shows.
I agree. Yeah,
that's all it shows.
I've rated them all season for sure.
Very good.
So let's talk about Liverpool then, lads. Obviously, they're in the driver's seat now, 3 points clear at the top of the league. Favourites for the title?
No. I've got to be honest with you, Brian. I got more questions than I did at the start of the game. If I'm really honest with you, I thought a Newcastle team who you said it yourself, exhausted, lacking quality, got through them so many times. I think if Gordon's got more composure, I think if Almiron's got more composure, you punish them. And I look at that forward line, all the quality is in one man's boots, and he's off to the African Cup of Nations soon. I don't know. I thought Curtis Jones was brilliant. And for me, he's one of their best midfielders. Szoboszlai and Endo, Diaz, good. Nunez, Jesus Christ. He's missed so many
two
chances.
centre-backs this season as a whole, maybe not this game in particular, but this season as a whole, look like they're a lot better than they were last season there.
Yeah, the centre-backs are great. The goalkeeper's the best that's ever played the game for me. The way that they play leaves them open. I think Trent's having his best season in a while. I don't know, man. I just like we're talking about Anfield as well. I think any team who faces this Liverpool team will fancy themselves to score goals. The question is going to be, can you stop them scoring? While Salah's in that front line, probably not. If it's Nunez, Diaz and Gakpo, I think you can have a go at them, man. I really do. And it's
the thing with this Premier League season is everyone's there to be got at.
Absolutely.
They're overly reliant on Salah. That's what I've took from this. Like, he was involved in absolutely everything today, Salah.
Yeah.
Like, he was head and shoulders above everyone on the pitch, and he's going away. And to me, it just confirms that City are going to win this title.
Should we go around the table and say who we think are going to win the league then? Right, I'll start because I've asked the question. I honestly do think that Liverpool will end up winning it this year. I don't think City will come back. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think De Bruyne will be fit enough. Like, I just think they've got some weaknesses in their team. So I reckon Liverpool will do it.
I'm going to go, and you know where I'm going to go, because everyone seems to think I support them on the slide.
Yeah.
Manchester City, I just think we ain't even seen the best of City yet. I feel like a lot of these other teams, maybe not Liverpool, they've still got other heights to hit, but a lot of these other teams are playing out their skin to an extent. City have been in like second, third gear this season. They could still click. And if they win their game in hand, how many points are they off the top? 1 point?
Yeah.
1 or 2?
City for me, yeah, easy. I think I think if either Arsenal or Liverpool were to win this league this season, we'd have had to put some runs together at this point. We'd have had to create distance between us and them now. Now that they've got De Bruyne coming back, Haaland coming back, Alvarez back on form, Foden finding form. Yeah, it's just too much quality.
If it's not going to be City, it's going to be Liverpool for me. I think, do you know what? I think I'm just going to have to go City. But if it's not going to be City, it's going to be Liverpool. And purely on the fact that I do define this era as Klopp and Pep. And I just think for it to be 6-1, 7-1, something like that, it's ridiculous. I think Klopp has got to get another one in there.